Excavation Profits Podcast by Excavation Marketing Pros. Interviews with successful excavation and septic business owners, revealing how they market and grow their business in today's economy. Hear directly from the most successful leaders in your business and discover what they're doing to keep their phone ringing, equipment running, and businesses booming. Now your host, Scott Andreessen.
Well, hey there. Welcome to today's briefing. So this is going to be a septic installer growth briefing. And I'm going to go ahead and get started here in just a moment and allow some people to come on in. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And we're going to go ahead and get started right on time. So the whole point of this briefing is how established septic installers build predictable install demand. Now, this is not going to be a training. This is actually going to be a decision briefing on whether or not paid growth is for you at whatever stage of business you are in as a septic installer. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because the vast majority of septic installers are not in a position where paid growth makes sense. And it's just not a right fit. It's not the right time. And so hopefully this helps any septic installers that are thinking about paid growth to understand what's at stake and whether or not it's going to be the right fit for you at your stage in your business. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the reason why this briefing exists is because excavation and septic contractors, they don't need more marketing ideas. You get inundated with the latest new marketing tactic every single week. What you need is clarity. And so this briefing exists to set realistic expectations around paid growth and what it can do for your business and what it can't do for your business. And I'm going to show you what actually works and help you decide if it's going to be a fit for you and where you're at. So here's what broke after 2021. There was an inflated demand around the entire home services market, basically for COVID. And afterwards, post-COVID, a lot of things changed. And, you know, agencies were working with contractors and septic and excavation contractors and, you know, making guarantees and promises based on that demand that existed around COVID that was artificially inflated. And so they were, you know, giving out enormous guarantees and, you know, that's all fine and well and good when there's such an outrageous demand for services around COVID time. But after that, lead guarantees collapsed because the demand just wasn't the same. Ad costs started to increase, sometimes double, triple, or more to get that same lead that, you know, was, say, $10 a year ago is now $40, $50, $60, even $100. And the lead quality dropped, so trust eroded. And the old playbook of using paid growth to bring in business just stopped working. And here's why guarantees fail, okay? And you know, running a business, you probably already know this, but guarantees really just shift risk artificially. And it turns the relationship between the contractor and the agency into you're not really buying their expertise or proven track record anymore. You're just buying a guarantee. Like, there's no downside. That's why I'm going to go with you, is because there's no financial risk whatsoever based on what you're telling me. And that ultimately attracts the wrong buyers. That breaks partnerships. And sustainable systems don't rely on a guarantee. So more leads does not equal more installs. And I think that's one myth or fallacy, that we need to break is that, okay, I know that if I get more leads, I'm going to get more installs. What really happens is it exposes the weaknesses within one's business. They will soon discover that if they get inundated with leads, they are suffering from missed calls. They are giving out slow quotes. They're discovering that they have a weak follow-up process, and the extra traffic amplifies weak operations in one's septic business. So that's something to keep in mind. And this is the real constraints, in my opinion, is that growth is limited by capacity, limited by speed, limited by the margins of what you charge versus what you get to keep. The follow-up discipline that the contractor has when a lead comes in, and not traffic, not just not getting traffic to your business at all. Those are like the real constraints, in my opinion, of what slows growth. So, want to give a shout out to Randy. Thanks for joining us, by the way. And so let's talk about this a little bit, is when we talk about capacity restraining your growth, what we mean is, can you take on the extra jobs that would be required to even grow the business? Do you automatically have the crews, have the capacity? Do you have the speed to get those jobs done? Margins, typically what works is one good paying job should cover the cost of your marketing system. That if your business is not set up to handle that, then you really shouldn't be getting involved in premium marketing. Follow-up discipline. A lot of times the agencies don't tell you this and the contractors don't know. And that is, with any of these paid growth style opportunities, one call is never enough. 2 calls is never enough. Typically, it's going to be 5 human calls to make the best use of that lead and get you the strongest return on investment. So if the contractor is not willing to do a human follow-up or have someone in their office follow up at least 5 times, they're not going to get a strong return on investment. Here's what's actually working now to move the needle. So when you first get started in a paid growth campaign, if you're a septic contractor or an excavation contractor, you might offer excavation work, site work, demolition, forestry mulching, septic installation, septic pumping, concrete flat work, right? You do all these things. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to get involved with paid growth and I sell all these different services. And so it's going to be easy for me to get a return on investment because I got all these opportunities. What that is in reality is just noise. What actually works now is focusing, at least right out the gate, when you get started with paid growth, one service area, creating one demand service for that one service in one service area, and building it for installs, not clicks. So demand capture looks something like this. Homeowners and some developers and GCs are already searching for septic installs. They have a high intent and there's a lower volume. And so it's important that you have a critical foundation in place to capture that. An example of demand capture would be, of course, Google searches. That if someone were to type in septic installer near me, septic services near me, septic contractors near me, You position an ad, a Google ad, up at the top of the page that someone clicks on, which is going to take them to a landing page where they call or fill out a form for your business. That is demand capture, is at the exact moment they're keying in the service you do, you show up at the top of the page collecting that lead. Demand creation is different, and a business needs both. Demand capture, you're getting people right here, right now that, for instance, off Google Ads, those people are going to be your highest intent that want to hire someone now. But that doesn't build a sustainable pipeline for years to come. You also need demand creation. And so this would also include homeowners, developers, and GCs, but they're not actively searching yet. So how do you create the demand? This would be like putting ads on Facebook and Instagram, showing that these are your services, and you'll get a much higher volume of this type of lead. But how you quantify how serious this person is in terms of buying your services is by the form that you have them fill out. So making them jump through hoops of not just boosting a post on Facebook, for instance, but driving them to a landing page or a form where they need to answer qualifying questions. If they're the sole decision maker, what type of job do they need? Do they, after you put together a proposal, what will they do next? Having them fill that in. If the proposal meets all their conditions of satisfaction, will they be ready to move forward with a method of payment or loan? These types of questions not only create demand, but they also qualify a lead so you know where they are. And a lot of times what we see is demand creation on Facebook or Instagram. Those people are now 30 to 60 days out. So for that to be successful, you have to have a system in place that is going to do a lead nurture follow-up and someone who is going to be willing to follow up with those people for that duration. Here's why both matter, and that is because install demand doesn't live in just one channel. If you just go after, say, Google searches and capturing that, that's a short-term solution, not a long-term one. You need to capture and create demand and have that working together. And that creates a predictable flow of inbound leads and a sales pipeline that continues compounding. And so the trick is you have a system in place that is going to follow up with all these leads you're creating long-term, following up with them by email, following up with them by occasional text messages. And that's where we get into automation and AI. That's how the savvy contractors, the installers, are doing it. So the first 90 days is build and optimize phase. It's not 90 days, I'm going to make a killing, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to sell a ton of jobs and 10x my money. That's never going to be the first 90 days. Okay? I shouldn't say never. If you find that unicorn, send them my way. Okay? But otherwise, first 90 days is going to be pretty straightforward from our experience. It's build and optimize. It's set an initial foundation, run some ads, leads start to trickle in. That does not stabilize with any kind of predictability until 90 days. Dialing in the messaging, the targeting, and the follow-up, those all get tested in real time with real data. And here's what results look like. During the first 90 days, you can expect uneven week to week. You might get one lead, one opportunity for an install one week. You could get 3 to 4 the next and think, okay, that's the new normal. Is this week I got 3 to 4. I should be expecting 3 to 4 install opportunities week after week. It's not going to be like that the first 90 days. This is normal. The math, if one install doesn't cover a normal month of marketing, this won't work. So this should be treated as an operating expense. Typically, and again, for those who are tuning in from around the country, the price of installs can vary from as little as $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in the South in some places to, if we go in the Midwest, $10,000, $20,000 for an install. If we go over on the West Coast, we're talking $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for an install, depending or more, depending on the complexity of the system. Is it conventional? Is it aerobic? What is the terrain like? That all plays a factor. And so typically, most contractors are investing several $1,000s a month all in with ads for a solution that works. And it only makes sense if one job is going to cover it. And sometimes contractors will find out that immediately cuts them out, is they don't have the margins to support that. And that is why historically most marketing fails with contractors. So this is not for new businesses. This is not for do-it-yourself marketers. Paid growth is not for guarantee seekers or anyone just saying, I want to test marketing. I want to try this out for 30 days and see if it's going to work. What we do, our success record has been working specifically in one niche to build the system. We work with excavation and septic only, but we build the system, we manage the demand, and we optimize performance. We do not close deals. We don't control revenue, and we don't promise specific outcomes. And on purpose, we keep the scope very narrow of once one service works and is dialed in, it's very easy at that point to add in other layers, but only after proof. So how engagements work is 90 days to build and optimize, and then month-to-month maintenance after that. So what happens next? If this matches how you think about growth, then the next step would be a short fit check. And if this does not align, that's okay. You just saved yourself a bunch of time. And most people who are watching or listening to this, it's not going to be a fit. And that's okay. But at least hopefully you got value out of knowing what to expect. So the next step is, if this is something that you think could work for you, is we are working in select areas right now for septic install demand. And you can schedule a 15-minute fit check call. This is not a sales pitch. This is a right fit territory check call to see if your service area qualifies. We'll confirm the service area, your capacity, and even go over the math. Like, we'll look at real numbers in your area, pull real data of the demand in your area. And this way you can know, okay, this is what people are looking for septic installs in my area. This is what I'm charging for septic installs. We can do an actual math comparison to see what that would look like for you based on your own numbers. So there is no pressure. If you think that would possibly be a good fit and you want to check if your service area qualifies for this, then you can go to excavationmarketingpros.com And there is a link on there to schedule a 15-minute right fit call. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be checking online, or you can use the QA box through Zoom. And I'll open up some questions if you have any specific questions around paid growth for septic installations. Now would be the time to enter those in if you have any specific questions. So going once, going twice. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in to this briefing. Hopefully you find this helpful, and I wish you much success. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Hey there, excavation pros. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast and channel. Leave us your feedback and let us know how we did. And hey, if you're interested in taking your excavation or septic business to the next level online, make sure you visit excavationmarketingpros.com today and take advantage of our free resources and mastermind group for excavation and septic industry professionals.